The great Rabbi Hillel of the first century challenges us with three significant questions. If I'm not for myself, who will be? If only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? This ancient challenge fueled the life of honor, integrity, and service lived by Rabbi Samuel Rosinger. During his 50-year tenure, Rabbi Rosinger cast a giant shadow of compassion, courage, leadership, and faith that touched more lives in this community than we will ever know. It is this legacy and our Love Thy Neighbor initiative that fuel the establishment of the most prestigious and significant honor created by Temple Emmanuel in the Southeast Texas Jewish community. In search of a rabbi, the Reformed congregation of Beaumont posted an oddly worded advertisement which read, "Rabbi wanted for Congregation Temple Emmanuel of Beaumont, Texas. Applicants may be graduates of the Hebrew Union College or the Jewish Theological Seminary. He must be a good mixer." It is reported that the pressman poked fun at the congregation for this statement, advising them to hire a bartender instead of a rabbi. Through this advertisement, however, Congregation Temple Emmanuel found a truly remarkable man, Samuel Rosinger, a native of Hungary, educated in Switzerland, Berlin, Columbia University, and the Jewish Theological Seminary. Rabbi Rosinger delivered his trial sermon on August 24, 1910. His last sermon to his congregation was to be delivered some 50 years later. This courageous, gentle, loving man was to stand up to the fury of the Ku Klux Klan, racial hatred, and violence, and yet is remembered as teacher, guide, counselor, and comforter to 3 generations of Beaumont Jewish families. He was the cohesive force of his day for the entire community, offering himself equally to all Beaumonters. Rabbi Rosinger's incredible impact on the greater Beaumont community can still be felt today. Dr. Jimmy Simmons shares these same principles and is the reason he was chosen to receive the 2015 Rabbi Samuel Rosinger Humanitarian Award. Dr. Jimmy Simmons was born and raised in Beaumont. His passion for music and education have long made him one of the most celebrated and respected public figures in Southeast Texas. His place as one of our most important educators was permanently cast when he accepted the position of president of Lamar University. During his administration, Dr. Simmons brilliantly led Lamar University through a golden age, with attendance almost doubling, rising academic standards, and the return of Cardinal football. After resigning his position at Lamar to enjoy his retirement, Dr. Simmons was called on once again to help his community and has done so by agreeing to serve as the president of the Beaumont ISD Board of Managers.
The connection of my family to Temple Emmanuel goes back to probably the early 1900s. My grandparents and Rabbi Rosinger and Gertrude were best friends. If you knew my grandfather and my grandmother, what terrific people they were. They came from Russia, and I think that our real name should have been Nachinsky. But over the time, between the time my grandfather came and the time he ended up in Beaumont, he had worked for a Simmons jeweler in Philadelphia. And we think that's where the name Simmons came from. This was a place of joy for us. And we came every Saturday, and we studied on Saturdays. That was when we actually had Sunday school and came to study. We had the service at the conclusion of our classes. And then, of course, we'd come back on Sunday. And I remember my dad could read fluent Hebrew. But as I continued through my life, my early childhood, I distinctly remember the influence that Dr. Rosinger had on me. Of course, I had the great fortune to be bar mitzvahed and confirmed under his tutelage. I remember too so clearly the lessons that I had face to face with Rabbi. I know that as I began my bar mitzvah preparation, the rabbi said, "Come to me next week with a piece of paper and have some of your thoughts for your speech written on it." And I thought all week, and I showed up that Saturday morning and with a blank sheet of paper. And I also remember Dr. Rosinger, all the other lessons that you learn when you go through a bar mitzvah. I remember how very disciplined he was and how exacting Rabbi Rosinger was. And I guess that's the first teacher I had that really demanded of me my best. I'm not sure I gave it, but Rabbi Rosinger certainly demanded it. And then, of course, as we went through our confirmation, I had a great class that I went through with, and as we all had to read from the Torah, I remember all of those lessons we had and the time we spent learning, and we actually formed quite a bond. My fondest memory, or perhaps the greatest lesson, was to be on time, especially during our confirmation classes. You were only late once with Dr. Rosinger. That was, he may give you one time, but from that point on, you were going to be on time. And of course, being a musician, that was very important later in my life. The symphony concert starts at 8, whether you're there or not. And as I look back the rabbis we've had, I think all of them have taken a lead in community service, in making this a much better place to live. And I've had great personal contact with all of the rabbis, and formed a great friendship with several of them. But I can say that Rabbi Rosinger, I think, set the great example. He was very interested and dedicated to this community and making this a better place to live for all of us. The part of my whole life, I think that the lessons I learned here during my early life, my childhood, my confirmation, have played an important role in everything I did after that. So again, it's been very important to me. The discipline, the self-respect, the ability to get up in front of a crowd and speak when you're 13 years old, all of those have been very important to me and to my life. As I sit here on the bima during this interview, it reminds me every time I come into this sanctuary, the temple, with the beautiful stained glass, that I distinctly remember looking at every piece of stained glass during my childhood. It brings me as close to God as any place in the world. I think that the Love Thy Neighbor initiative is fabulous. It's fantastic. I can't think of a time in this community's history that it has been more important, particularly as I work with the school district and see the various parts of our community they all need to come together. And I think that's one thing that this Love Thy Neighbor initiative can help us accomplish.
It is our distinct pleasure and honor to present the Rabbi Samuel Rosinger Award to Dr. Jimmy Simmons.